has asked a question. Brother from Nigeria, your name? Khurshid?
Khalil Mahmood.
Khalil Mahmood, right. Yes. He wants to know the clear distinction between the two attributes of Allah of being the possessor of Jalal and possessor of Jamal, and their manifestation in Islam and other religions. So that some prophets are called Jalali prophets, and some are called Jalal. And sometimes there is a phase of Jalal, and there is a following phase of Jamal. That is what you wanted to find out. Now, Jalal means, in ordinary terms, it may also mean anger, but it's not that. Jalal means a mood which is very serious and full of determination, and at any cost, if one has decided to do it, even if anger has to be involved, that is called Jalal. So at the time when Allah sends those prophets with law, at that time it is a particular period of his expression of Jalal. Willy-nilly, whatever may happen, that book of law will have to be established in the lifetime of that prophet. So if people use sword against such prophets, swords would be permitted to be used against the offenders. And ultimate victory has to be won in the lifetime of that prophet, because unless he has demonstrated the law to the people with his own example, he cannot be satisfied as to the fact that people have understood the message correctly. The Holy Quran mentions this in the verse, وَكَذَلِكَ يُصَرِّفُ الْآيَاتِ وَلَيَقُولُوا دَرَسْتَ وَلَنُبَيِّنَهُ لِقَوْمٍ يَعْلَمُونَ. That, O Holy Prophet, this is why we repeat the verses in so many ways. We give them different terms so that people may understand. And you should be satisfied when they say it in so many words addressing you, Darasta. You have fulfilled your duty as a teacher, and we have fully understood. So that phase cannot be completed unless the victory is won during the lifetime of that prophet, and the first phase is established completely. He must be able to demonstrate it in a manner as if in a manner where he is also power to do that. If he is not given the power of state, for example, in his lifetime, how can he implement such things where the authority of state is required? So that phase is of Jalal. And Allah will not wait for the people for a very long period. They have to accept, at least in as much as a full authority is exercised by the Prophet of that time in an area where he is sent primarily, or to a people to which he is sent primarily. This is Jalal. And the phase of Jamal is the phase of patience. The whole Jalal is left to the people to exercise against the servants of Allah. And Allah says that it is not Jalal alone which can win. It is Jamal which can win. And the Jamal means that whatever atrocities you commit against the people are not permitted to pay you in the same coins. The sword is handed over to the persecutor. The power to lit fires is delegated to the persecutors. The power to persecute and loot and put to arson and destroy and kill, all the annihilative powers are handed over to the persecutor. And it said, do whatever you will. You will not win. Perseverance, patience, love, must become victorious over the powers of hatred and annihilation. This is the period of Jamal. As you may have witnessed in the history of Christianity, against the period of Jalal of Hazrat Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. Now this period also requires patience in the sense that your victory is not within a generation or two. Sometimes it lingers on and on. For centuries sometimes you have to offer sacrifices. But with Jamal, never with anger. With the result that victory which is attained through Jamal later on, this is the second phase of the same religion in fact. It's a different phenomena, but it belongs to the prophet of the first of the religion, the founder prophet of the religion, because it is he initially who has been given the responsibility. So both these phases originally belong to him, but have been unfolded, one during his lifetime, and the second during after his lifetime, during a phase farther apart. So this is how you compare Hazrat Musa's time with Hazrat Isa's time. And the victory which is attained later on by Jamal, it is much wider and much more lasting. It encompasses not only the people to whom the message is addressed, but to the people around as well. It's a very strong phenomenon that when it comes into motion and ultimately wins. So this is why Ahmad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was told in the Holy Quran that you are like a prophet, before you that is Moses. And it says, Kama arsalna ila Fir'auna rasula. We have sent this prophet, raised this prophet, as we raised the prophet towards Pharaoh, that is Moses. And the founder of Islam, according to the Holy Quran, is similar to the founder of what you call the religion of Torah. Judaism it is called, but in fact it is the religion of Torah. So that similarity does not end there, that they are the lawmakers and the lawbringers. The similarity continues into other regions. Sword was raised against Hazrat Moses. Sword was raised against Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That sword was defeated with sword at the hands of Moses ultimately and at the hand of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The law was completed and established during their lifetime. And however strong the enemy may appear now when we look back, it was totally destroyed. This is a phenomenon which was unrolled and unveiled during the time of Muhammad Mustafa. So when he promises the Ummah that at the end a Messiah would also appear, it shows automatically, it is inferred from that as the founder was not the same Moses but similar to him. So the Messiah would be the similar person or an office holder similar to the old Messiah, not he himself. It is the phenomena which is going to be unfolded. And the same phenomena has been unfolded by Hazrat Masih Maud. And we are passing through the same phases of torture and persecution. And it seems there is an unending chain which will not end in our lifetime. It will continue. Allah knows how long it's going to be. But we know positively that if the Messiah of Moses was made ultimately and finally and consummately victorious by Allah, it is impossible that the Messiah of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not made more conspicuously conqueror and victorious and the ultimate winner. So that is what is going to happen inshallah. And Hazrat Masih Maud has also mentioned this, that it's not necessary that Ahmadiyyat should take 300 years, because there is an additional blessing of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam which is obviously exercising in our favor. For example, Jesus was crucified, but Hazrat Masih Maud was saved from crucifixion despite their best attempts to put him to death through hanging. That is a sort of crucifixion in existence in the present days. But the attempts failed, concocted murders and all that, and they go on till today. These people always behave in the same manner. Distorted minds always think in the same terms. The crime is repeated by different people, but the manner of crime remains the same. So Allah saved him. So it is not necessary that the similarity should be extended to each detail, but the similarity is to be extended in departments, in generalities. And there you find so many similarities between Hazrat Masih Maud and the Messiah of old that it is surprising. I'll tell about that later, but first let me finish this part, that Hazrat Masih Maud has given us the glad tidings that it is not necessary that we will have to wait for 300 years. Maybe within 200 years, maybe even within 100 years. So the exceptional phase of sacrifices which we have entered also gives us the glad tidings that there is going to be an exceptional phase of Allah's favors. And within a matter of our lifetime, I am quite certain, inshallah, we will see great changes occurring. And Allah help us to be patient till that time. And let's hope that Allah will bring that time sooner than we expect. Now the similarity between Hazrat Masih Maud and Hazrat Messiah are so many. For example, you can measure the distance through years. Hazrat Isa appeared at the head of the 14th century, about 1300 years after Hazrat Moses. And Hazrat Masih Maud appeared at the head of the 14th century. Hazrat Musa was permitted to raise sword against sword. Hazrat Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was permitted to raise sword against sword, but Messiah was not. So was not Hazrat Masih Maud. Every time an effort was made through coercion, through torture, through persecution, through prosecution by the Jews to annihilate Christianity, the net result was that Christianity always emerged bigger and stronger. And it's a strange thing that every time the swords were defeated and the throats which were cut were not defeated. Those who burned houses, they were made poorer, and whose houses were burned, they were not made poorer. They went on spreading and gaining in everything. So the same phenomena we have seen with our own eyes unfolded at the time of Hazrat Masih Maud, and we are going through these phases. And again, Hazrat Masih Maud was told by Allah that in response to their cruelties, you must teach patience and tell your people to pray. The same was the message of the Christ of old, the Messiah. This is exactly what he taught. Hazrat Masih Maud was mocked at by his enemies, and they said, look here, unless you descend bodily from heaven, we are not going to believe you. The same thing happened about Jesus Christ. He was told that we should not believe in you, we would not believe in you until Elia descends from heaven bodily. And the Bible tells us that they mocked at the followers of the Masih, peace be upon him. And they said, look, they went and complained to the master, the Masih. Look here, this is what the rabbis and the Pharisees are doing to us. They come and mock at us. They say, produce the age of us. He descends. How can you expect us to believe? And Hazrat Masih, you know what he said in answer? He said, John the Baptist, Yohanna, is the same age Elijah who was to descend from heaven. Believe it or not. So the verdict was given for all time. This was exactly the objection against the new Messiah. Expectation of somebody appearing from heaven in body, not in spirit. And the same was the answer of Masih Maud Salam. So there are so many departments. Hazrat Masih Maud Salam has mentioned, to my memory, 14 similarities. And again, for example, there is one similarity of his appearance at the end. And Hazrat Rasul Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has used the same word, Akhareen, that Messiah would appear among the Akhareen. And after that, there will be Qiyamah, or the day of resurrection, or the day of ultimate annihilation. So the same thing is said in Hadith, that after Messiah appears, there will be Qiyamah, and the day of resurrection, or the day of total annihilation of the world, whatever you call it. So this is one. This is also a department of similarity. But there are so many. Hazrat Masih Maud has mentioned about 14, and I have also been mentioning them variously at various places. So you understand the phenomena of Jamal. Jamal is a very strange phenomenon. Apparently it's a very soft-looking word. How beautiful and soft that Jamal is going to appear. But it is so torturous and so painful that those people who become the symbol of Jamal, of Allah's Jamal, representative of Allah's Jamal, they have to suffer very greatly. So Jalal apparently is a very strong and powerful phenomenon with a sense of anger in it, as I have explained. But on the other hand, people during the Jalal are better off in so many ways. But Hazrat Rasul Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is one prophet who encompasses every situation in himself as well. It is not that Hazur Akram sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was only representative of Jalal and he left the Jamal for Masih Maud salam and these people entirely. This is wrong to say this. He encompassed both these qualities to the utmost. And there are two phases in his life which are distinct from the other, one from the other. For example, the period of Mecca and the period of Medina. Period of Mecca is the consummation of Jamal, and the period of Medina is the consummation of Jalal. So, although in his lifetime both the phenomena were manifested, yet as a period, it takes a longer period. Both the period of Jalal and period of Jamal are not periods contained in one lifetime. They are extended to many generations. So as such, we can say positively that Ahmad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's phase was that of Jamal predominantly, because after him there was a very long period of Jalal, despite the fact that he encompassed both in his own person. And in the time of Masih Maud salam, there is going to be a long period and phase of Jamal as against that.
हजूर, मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि जब बाज़ दफ़ा मियाँ और बीवी के दरमियान तलाक का नाखुशगवार वाक़या आता है, तो आमतौर पर सुनने में ये आता है कि कहते हैं कि इस्लाम ये कहता है कि बेटे जो हैं वो बाप को मिले। तो क्या वाकई अगर वो औरत जिसको अपने खामन से भी खुशी नहीं मिली, इस्लाम उसके लिए ये हुक्म देता है कि उसके बेटे से लेकर मर्द को दे दे?
The point is that the ladies have completely missed the import of this injunction. Totally. All that was it was in fact for the men to complain, not for ladies. Because Islam says that during the period of childhood, up to 9 years, it is the prior right of ladies to have the children, and not of men. And after that period, it is the choice of the boys and girls themselves to choose where they have to go. No, just listen. What I am telling you, listen with attention, because I am telling you a way out of this situation in which you find yourself compelled. After till 9 years, the court can give children forcibly to the ladies unless there are certain objections raised by men that they can't bring them up properly because of religious differences, because of immoral habits, and so many things may happen. But otherwise, till 9 years of age, children have the right to be brought up by their mothers. Now, if mothers have this priority, it is impossible for those children to have greater leaning towards their fathers than to the mothers later on. And even if between 9 and 12 they are given the right, the parents are given the preference, the fathers are given the preference, the period of this just 3 years is not as strongly impressionable as the period which has passed before, and they have been brought up under the mother's care. And after that they are free. When they reach the adulthood, then no law can compel them to be anywhere. They can choose to go either to their mother or to father. So there is not at all anything wrong with the mothers. In fact, as we call it, पंजाबी में कहते हैं हाथ हो गया. अगर हाथ हो जाए तो मरना ना हो जाए. If somebody has been deprived, it is man, not woman. Yes, please. Rashid Sahib. After Rashid Sahib, one is very important question.
No, it's well.
Have you dropped that altogether?
Sorry.
Have you dropped that question altogether, which you consider was most important?
No, sir. It's up to you to answer it.
But what is this question now?
Concerning the question about Jamali and Hilali,
yes.
Nabi, could you kindly tell us the difference between Rasul and Nabi?
There is no difference. Only an expression denoting different aspects of their office.
So we say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. We don't say Nabiullah.
That's right. You see, so that shows there is no difference.
No, you see, sir, in Quran,
that proves that there is a difference. Nabi was something different other than Rasul. Then Allah should have told you to say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah wa Nabiullah.
So in Quran Sharif, about one prophet is mentioned, he was Nabi and Rasulah. I don't know the name of him.
Yes.
But about others,
that shows, if you go through the history, that shows there must have been some objection raised against him. Some people might have said that he is either Rasul and not Nabi, or Nabi and not Rasul. Because this is the style of the Holy Quran. Whenever in Bible or in Apocrypha, some objection and allegation has been made against a prophet or a pious person whom Allah wants to defend, then Allah mentions that in the Holy Quran in a very subtle manner. Sometimes it doesn't mention the allegation at all. It only defends the prophet in a manner that sometimes people just miss the point altogether. For example, when the Holy Quran tells us of Mary's piety and chastity, the Christians miss the point totally. They think that no mother of any prophet was chaste and pious. Only Mary has been mentioned as chaste and pious, so she has a superiority over all others. While the point is exactly the opposite. No mother of a prophet was ever considered to be unchaste, except the mother of Jesus Christ. So Allah had to defend her. So it's not a superiority, it is the possibility of making faltering into a pit from which Allah saves the people, because if they falter about the concept of Mary, naturally they will believe in Jesus Christ either. So Allah has saved us from committing that error and defended Mary, because she was the only lady among the mothers of prophets who was considered to be unchaste. So this is the style. So if a prophet has been exceptionally mentioned as Rasul and Nabi, while other prophets have not been so clearly mentioned both together, that means there must be some significance. It has to be found out in history through investigation. Yes, please, lady, please.
I have got this question that sometimes when you are in distress or in misery and you can't pray to Allah as you normally do. I mean, you can't say your prayers properly, or you can't, beg for any, whatever misery you've got. And in that state of misery and distress, how does Allah listen to your prayers?
Sometimes the state of misery and distress becomes an unspoken prayer in itself. The prayers are not always spoken. Sometimes the state is so miserable that you look at that person and you show mercy. This is why Allah Ta'ala has mentioned in the Holy Quran two types of people. One as beggars and one as, وَفِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. Not beggars in the normal sense, ordinary sense, but beggars in the sense that who have to ask questions because they have been forced to the extent by misery that they can't survive unless they ask for assistance. But there are others who are mahroom, who can't even ask because their self-respect would stand in the way, and whatever may happen to them, they will not spread their hand to others. So Allah says that the mu'mineen, the believers, should look after both these classes. They should not wait for anybody to ask. If somebody belongs to this class, as he would not spread his hand, extend his hand to others for mercy, they should go to him and extend their hands to him for mercy. So now, if Allah wants us to behave like that, how can it be possible for Allah not to behave like that to us? So, every situation does not demand prayer. The situation can be of such nature that you have not spoken a single word, but Allah has shown mercy to you. If there is that nobility that is mentioned that is implied in Mahroom. Mahroom means a man who has such honor as does not extend his hand to anybody. So if you do not pray during your misery to Allah, but go on running to people for aid and help and raise your hue and cry and try to attract people's attention, you get out of the category of Mahroom. So then it is not a state of prayer in which you find yourself. Then it's a different state with which I am not concerned. I am telling you that the ideal thing in that situation is to depend on Allah and do not cry out to people trying to win their favors and so on. Be patient and wait. And there is a prayer by Hazrat Moses which is also significant in the sense that it describes such a situation where man cannot ask for anything, does not know what is good for him. Sometimes he is so confused and baffled that he doesn't know what thing is good for him and what is bad for him. In that state too, one cannot ask for anything. So Hazrat Moses was very clever in this respect. His prayers are very interesting. and they have been so oft repeated in the Holy Quran that Allah must have enjoyed the way he prayed. So he says, Rabbi inni lima anzalta ilayya min khairin faqir. Oh my Lord, I don't know. What is good for me? I am just a beggar sitting in your way. Give me alms as you please. He's not asking for anything. And after that prayer, everything was given to him. A home, a wife, security, and employment, and profitability. And the prayer is so silent and so short, as if nothing has been asked. So the state of misery can be turned into a silent prayer. You know, after
Allah tells us in the Holy Quran that human life is the most superior type of life that God has created. Allah also tells us that there is life elsewhere in the universe.
yes.
Is it at all possible that there is human life elsewhere in the universe?
Allah tells us of animal life, this is answer. The Holy Quran tells us that وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ خَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا بَثَّ فِيهِمَا مِنْ دَابَّةٍ وَهُوَ عَلَى جَمْعِهِمْ إِذَا يَشَاءُ قَدِيرٌ. In this verse, so many things have been told of the future of man and the scientific developments and his reach, that just this verse should be enough to convince the atheist that either you believe that Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa was himself a God, or you believe that there was another God telling him these things. Because it was entirely beyond the capacity of man to reach out to such heights of future knowledge as this single verse tells us. First of all, look at the concept of the universe during the time of Anhu sallallahu alaihi wasallam and many, many dark centuries beyond, after his age. The concept was that the heavens are made of firmaments, and one after the other there are firmaments which are something made of some plastic nature. And in those firmaments, the stars are studied, sources of light. How they work, they don't know, but they are sources of light which are studied in those firmaments. Like jewels are studied on a dress piece. So this was the entire concept about the universe. No question of any life existing beyond this earth. So first of all, the Holy Quran says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ خَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا بَثَّ فِيهِمَا مِنْ دَابَّةٍ. That concept of firmament is totally wrong, because Allah has created life both here and in the heavens. And the word used for life is not a word applicable to angels or spiritual life of any sort. It is entirely limited and cannot be extended beyond this limited sense. It is limited to the animal life, as we call the biological life. Dabba is the word only used for biological life. A life which can move. And the entire animal life can be described by one single word Dabba. And it is by no means applicable to angels or spiritual life. That is an important fact which has to be stressed. So Allah says the firmaments are not like you think, because in such a case there could not be any life beyond this earth. But Allah tells you that there is life. Secondly, it tells, Wallahu ala jam'ihim iza yasha'u qadir. That Allah is going to bring them together. Now this is something which man has not yet reached. Even the first part, the second part was contained in the first part, that the heavens are not like this and the life is beyond. There are 2 points mentioned. So the people have so far reached the man, I should say, has so far reached the first stage alone. They know the nature of heavens. They know that it is possible in the heavens for life to exist elsewhere, but as yet they do not know if there is life. It's only a conjecture, a mathematical question. But the Holy Quran has solved both these questions. And the secondly, if the scientists do discover ultimately that there is life beyond this earth, they are not at all sure if it is possible for the life of that planet and the life of this planet Earth to meet. Because even if that planet is one light year beyond us, it is impossible for that life to come to Earth, even if we live on for thousands of years. Because we can't travel on the shoulder of light, which travels at a speed of 186 miles plus per second. But there are planets millions of years apart in light years terms. So the Holy Quran tells us that not only there is life, but it is possible for life beyond this earth to meet the life on this earth. And again it goes on saying that not only is it possible, but it is going to happen like this. Because the word used is not in, but iza. وَهُوَ عَلَى جَمْعِهِمْ إِذَا يَشَاءُ قَدِيرٌ means that when Allah will decide the time has come, He will cause both types of lives to get together on one platform. It's not in, which means if Allah wants. It says Allah will want, of course there is no question. But when He will decide to do it, it is up to Him. So everything has been mentioned in this verse, our future, which was impossible for man to conceive. But the nature of life, other than the fact that it could be animal life, we do not know. Maybe they are made of silicon, who knows? Maybe of some ethereal things. But the important thing about life is that it will be organized, it will be conscious. The most fundamental point about life is consciousness. So if consciousness can be created in machines of silicon, and they can reproduce, that is life. So that can also come under the heading of animal life. It will be moving, it will have all the qualities of animal life. So only that much I can say from the Holy Quran, but the exact nature of those people, what it could be, we don't know. But we know one thing again from this verse, that Jama not only means physical togetherness, Jama also means mental togetherness. And it may be. So it is possible that Allah has prophesied that they will be able to converse with each other. They will have reached a stage of development that despite the fact that they won't know the language of each other, they will be able to convey the meanings and come into communion with each other.
Assalamualaikum. Hazur, the other day, Hazur mentioned that in a society where interest becomes unavoidable, one can compensate the interest paid by earning the same amount of interest.
Right.
Hazur, can we infer from this proposition that in a society where bribery becomes a common practice, where bribery becomes a common practice?
No, the other thing about bribery, Hazrat Masih has already explained. So you can't go on inferring from one thing in a manner as to make the information unlimited for every situation. Every situation demands certain conditions, and those conditions have to be fulfilled before taking a certain area. Now I'll explain about bribery. The Holy Quran has very clearly laid down that the bribery is forbidden if you intend to misappropriate the public property for your sake. And for this reason, if you give gifts to the rulers, this is forbidden. It is not forbidden to give gifts or part with your own money, to save your money. They are two absolutely different things. The Holy Quran says, وَلَا تُدْرُوا إِلَى الْحُكَّامِ لِتَأْكُلُوا أَمْوَالَ النَّاسِ بَيْنَكُمْ بِالْبَاطِلِ. Don't present things to your rulers with the purpose of misappropriating the public money. And the public money has been mentioned in a most beautiful way. It says, Amwalakum bainakum. Ya amwalan nas, is it amwalan nas or amwalakum? Taklu amwalakum bainakum bil batil. It is your own money. When you eat public money, this is the property of the state, of the entire people. So why are you being dishonest to yourself? Because you have two aspects, one individual and one community. Even if you steal from the community, you will be destroying the peace of the entire community, and ultimately you are going to get the suffering, share the suffering of the people. So it says, do not misappropriate the public money, which is your own money. And for this sake, do not bribe your rulers, those people at the helm of affairs. Now that shows that if that is not the object, it is not at all forbidden to give gifts to people. And why it is not forbidden, that has to be kept in mind. If you part with your money for reasons other than this, it is not bribery. So don't think bribery is permitted in some form. The definition of bribery is made so clear that in situations where it is not wrong for you to part with your money for the sake or to give gifts to the rulers, that situation is not called bribery by the Holy Quran. Only a malintention with the purpose of misappropriating the people's money. That is wrong. That is forbidden. Now, conceive of any other situation. If somebody is dishonest enough not to give you your right, and you give your money to him for taking your right alone, that is not at all dishonest on your part. That is dishonest on his part. So that is not bribery according to Islam, so it is permitted. But with one caution, I must say, the present system of bribery in the world is such that when you give something out of your money for the sake of obtaining your right, it is not entirely your right that you get. You get something over and above what you have paid. For example, if some contractor pays some government official 1,000 rupees for a certain job, what would happen? He would add, instead of 1,000, 2,000 rupees to the cost of the project. This is the common system. And the officer would close his eyes. And apart from that, he would also lower the standard of his work and save from whichever corner he can. With the result that, in fact, he would be giving bribery to the tune of 1,000, but he will be misappropriating the public money to the tune of many thousands. This is pure and simple bribery. It cannot be permitted. So not because Masih Maud has said that if you have to throw bone to a dog, there is nothing wrong. If you are afraid of injury from a dog, this is exactly what Masih Maud has explained. It is the crime of the dog to bark at you or to bite you. It is not your crime to throw a bone to the dog to keep him quiet. So this is exactly how the Holy Quran has explained, and it is in fact in explanation of this verse that Masih Maud has used that symbolic language. Now, Azan please.